Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about self-doubt and how this feeling arises in our experience and how it can often interfere with our life and our pursuit of meaning and the various goals that we wish to set up and aspire towards. Self-doubt is, of course, something that I've grappled with through much of my life, and especially with the videos and the creations that I make. It's been this sort of ever-present force which I've had to learn how to grapple with and learn as well how to understand. Because the thing about our doubt is that it is not necessarily good that we should seek to eradicate it, because our doubt is a form of information, really. It's telling us something about how we believe in ourselves. How confident are we in our abilities? How aware are we of what we know? And I think some people, they have literally no doubt, no self-doubt, and that can lead into sort of excessive overconfidence and perhaps a lack of humility. Like with many things, we need to understand the function of doubt and to find a kind of middle way between excess and not enough. Of course, the middle way is spoken about in a lot of different mystical and philosophical traditions. We have it in Aristotle's golden mean. We have it in Buddhism, where they talk about the middle way of the path to enlightenment. And it's I suppose, a useful way of framing the delicate balance between excess and scarcity. And now to come back to our self-doubt. Of course, like I said, we should not seek to eradicate or suppress it. We should seek to welcome it into our experience, but also not allow it undue or excessive presence in our consciousness. You see, we heighten and make something more long-lasting in our awareness when we focus our attention on it. If we have a particular fear, we have a tendency to amplify that fear by continually circulating on it and ruminating upon it, and that will take often a small thing into a much bigger thing, because with our attention we're giving it energy. With our self-doubt, perhaps we feel like we're not smart enough, or we don't have the right sort of grasp of ideas. That can sort of bubble up in our consciousness, that feeling. And when we bring our attention to it, we can spin multiple different stories from it. We can call to our mind different events, past events in our life where we felt like we weren't good enough, where someone said something to us which sort of really damaged our ego and our self-esteem. And that circulation of stories which stirs up in our mind, it adds more energy to this cluster of self-doubt. And, I think with all of our ruminations and all of the mental obstacles that we often create for ourselves, it often starts as a small, subtle thing that flickers in our awareness, and then we notice it, and rather than sort of watching that small flickering from a distance and allowing it to naturally dissipate by itself, we give more energy to it, and a small thing spirals into a larger thing, and that larger thing creates a deep psychological block within us, which impairs our ability to lose ourselves in our work, to create with confidence and faith and belief in ourselves. And now, it is a common trait within human beings to have what is called a negativity bias. And what this means is that we have a tendency to bring our attention and our thoughts towards things which are sort of negative in energy. And we have less of a tendency to focus our awareness on things that are positive, on things that are grateful, that things that make us feel good. And there's I suppose, different reason for why we tend to have this negativity bias. Perhaps humans evolved to have it because often negative, we have to pay more attention to the negative and potentially threatening things in our experience, because they often would dictate our survival and reproduction. And positive things were important to focus on, but in comparison to negative things, they weren't relatively as significant, which is why we tend to be caught up so much in negative feelings as opposed to positive feelings. Now, of course, because this negativity bias is a bias, it is not a condemnation on our nature. We have the capacity to reconfigure our mind, to train our mind such that we can focus on more positive things. We can train our mind to be more grateful and to have less of a tendency to be swept up and caught up in negative loops, negative patterns. And of course, in today's video, I'm focusing on that pattern of self-doubt and how we examine it, how we understand it, and what to do when these feelings arise. Now, an important piece of shadow work that we should do before any sort of feeling of self-doubt sort of arises, an important piece of shadow work we should do is to really analyze and deconstruct the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And what this process does, it gets to the very root of our psychological patterns. And we have to get to the root of them if we are to understand and comprehend them. And then through that comprehension, we can then loosen the weight that they have on clouding our awareness. Because self-doubt is very much a cloud on our awareness. It's something that blocks us from taking leaps of faith, from being courageous in life, because there is this conditioned belief that things will not go well for us because of certain characteristics of us. And often these characteristics are conditioned in us from an early age. Perhaps they were reinforced in us by our parents and our peer groups and our society at large to tell us that we are a certain way. And because we are a certain way, things in reality, there are certain things in reality that will just happen to you. Now, how do I explain this in a more coherent way? Perhaps we were told, that we're stupid, that we're not smart enough. And that belief will put us off of really, pursuing, academic or intellectual activity. We will not explore that realm of reality because we believe, or we've been told to believe, that we are incapable of doing that. Let's say someone from a young age, they loved singing, or they loved any kind of musical endeavor. And perhaps, a friend or a parent told that person when they're young, oh, you're rubbish, or oh, you're not that good. That energy of criticism sticks to one's consciousness, especially when they're, a child, because a child is like a sponge. They're absorbing their environment. And if you give a child, positive reinforcement, like you say, oh, you're very, very good, this is what and you have that sort of encouragement to pursue that activity. Or if you give that child, say, a negative energy in the form of like some kind of criticism or just a simple insult, those two different energies, the positive energy and the negative energy, naturally have two different effects on the child. And then as a result of those two different effects, those two polar effects, they will lead to two different developmental outcomes. one child is encouraged to pursue that thing, and the other child is discouraged from pursuing that thing. And the child, because the child is less able to, summon up the energy of self-directing their will. Their will is very much influenced by their environment, by the people around them. Because of that, they are going to soak up and absorb the energy of those around them. They're going to absorb that energy, whether or not it is positive and encouraging or negative and discouraging. It is only when we're older that we have the ability to look on our conditioning, look on our past, and look on the sort of the energy of our upbringing, and whether that was encouraging us, whether it was discouraging us, or whether it was neutral or detached or a ambiguous complex of energy. And I guess what I'm speaking about here is really untangling the karma of your self-belief and the cause of your doubt and where it has come from. And there's this deep facet of healing whereby when we start to understand the ways in which we have been conditioned in the past and how that past conditioning is playing out within the present, the sort of the residue of our conditioning. The simple illumination of awareness on those sort of aspects, it naturally dissolves it. We can see the contours of our beliefs. And once we know that the root of those beliefs are not within us, but within the environment, the way we were conditioned, we can then begin the process of detaching our consciousness from those past events, detaching our consciousness from that karma. And the way we detach our consciousness in real time is through meditation in the present. Meditation in the present resides in watching the arising of our self-doubt, watching the sort of the subtle blocks. Let's say we're about to write something and we have this feeling that we have no ideas and we are incapable of summoning ideas, and that creates a sort of spiral. When we are in the process of healing, we will be able to watch that conscious mental activity, but not be involved in it. We watch it from this vantage point. And when we watch from a vantage point where we're not involving our energy in the spiral, but we're actually standing and watching from the perspective of what you may call our higher self or the God side view, that distance naturally purifies it, because that distance is created by mindful activity, and mindful activity creates what you may call good karma. Good karma is simply actions that will reap positive benefits in the future. They're the sort of the positive patterns that we build, and the positive patterns within our being. And paying attention to our consciousness creates the habit of paying attention, and it deeply reinforces that pattern. And when we have that higher consciousness, when we have that clarity of awareness, then we have that ability to witness with a silence and a deep clarity of mind. And it's from this witnessing position of consciousness, it's this place where we are detached from all the doubt, all the thoughts, all the desires, all the conditioned preferences and aversions. When we witness it from that perspective, then we are in that silent and clear state of mind where we can then work, when we can then do that which is our dharma, that which we are here to do. And as I'm articulating this formulation of ideas, I am noticing the shift of my awareness in this video. particularly as I sort of go in and out and into this state of witness consciousness, where I'm in the flow state. And there is no sense of internal resistance, there's no sense of conflict. There is just this subtle peace and a subtle openness to all that is to come. And when we work from that state of mind, this state of mind that is simple and clear and silent, and we're not tense, we're not agitated, we're not restless within ourselves. When we work from that state of mind, we will naturally express good things, like beautiful things, creative things. Creativity depends upon that relaxation and that confidence and faith and that openness. And it is the nature of self-doubt, of course, to conceal that from us, to create tension within us, to create obstacles for us to overcome, obviously. Like, we shouldn't resent the fact that such obstacles occur. We should see them as opportunities. Apologies, there's some noise in the background. We should see them as obstacles to be overcome. For it is in the overcoming of such obstacles that we strengthen and train our mind, such as in this situation where during the recording some loud noises spontaneously arise, and that confronts me with the challenge of, am I able to retain a one-pointed focus and a one-pointed clarity despite noise in the background? Of course, it would be my preference that such noise would not arise, but I also realize the value of such things because they give me a chance to really test my capacity of awareness. You know, and life will always throw upon you things to overcome and challenges. And we have the choice of how to look at such challenges. We can look at a challenge and be like, I am unable to overcome this. But we can look at this and believe that this is difficult and I don't know whether I can overcome this, but I'm going to try. It is better to reside in this place of not knowing as opposed to a state where you feel or you believe that you know that you are incapable, because you don't really know that you are incapable. Apologies, just a mic ran out of charge. I need to get a new one, but yeah. The true reality is that you don't know what you are capable of until you do it, obviously. And I guess I like to reside in that place. I hold what I know very lightly, and I create from that realm of the unknowing, because that's where novelty arises. And something I'm thinking about in this moment is whether it is better to have a kind of irrational overconfidence in your abilities. And I'm not too sure. Because I think that can spill over into excessive pride and a lack of humility in one's ability. I think it's better to just be in this childlike state, the beginner's mind, where you're just open and receptive and accepting of the things that you know, but not clinging to them with pride and arrogance. You're flexible. You have to be fluid. Because I notice in people who are almost arrogant in what they know, there's a certain sense of rigidity within them, because they're closing themselves off to all the things that they don't know by arrogantly clinging to being a master or an expert in this or that thing. And they really detach themselves off from being a child, from having that childlike mind of being curious and open to the mystery of reality. Then they lose their sense of awe and reverence when they believe that they know. And so I guess we see that, like bringing back full circle to the beginning where I was talking about the middle way, there is a balance between ignorance and the arrogance of claiming to know something. And the middle of that is this position of fluidity, where you are not ignorant, but you are not arrogant and rigid. You're just there, fluid. You're working your way through reality. You're learning, and you're developing your comprehension of reality, but you're never spilling into that pothole of being like, I know this. Because the moment you say, I know this, you're cutting yourself off from knowing more. Because knowledge is a fluid thing. In our sort of Western mind, we reduce knowledge to understanding facts rather than a more embodied understanding of knowledge. And when we focus our knowledge on just learning and regurgitating propositions, we lose touch with the fact that knowledge, the acquisition of knowledge, the acquisition of wisdom is a dynamic and evolutionary thing that continues throughout all of our life, from our birth to our death. And yeah, I think I'll sort of leave that about. I know that's an abrupt way to sign off, but I've been speaking long and hard, and that background noise is distracting me now. But I hope it's been good. I hope it's been interesting, insightful, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Goodbye.